Thank you, and thank you. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here. I know when people ask a first question that I want to ask, how many of us know that there are 3 species of zebra? Impressive. And there are 3 species of zebra, and 2 of them are doing well. One of them is endangered, and that's the Grevy zebra. There are left less than 3,000 in the world. And, sorry, it's all about technology. My community, the Samburu, where I come from, live in this landscape where the graves are. Historically, they were found in the North Horn of Africa, but they moved down the Nile to their current home, that's Samburu. In this landscape, it's dotted with open grassland, bushy areas, and beautiful hills and mountains. But this area is also historically an area where communities move from one area to another in search of pasture and water. So movement is a very critical component of my community. It's the lifestyle of my community. As they search for pasture and water, that movement in itself is very important to maintain land health. This is just a picture that shows cows getting out of their kraal, going out in search of pasture. It's an area that doesn't have any development such as tarmac, no concrete building. And for me, coming from such a landscape, when I landed here and went to New York and saw all the tall buildings, it was an aha moment for me. It's something that I've never seen. So movement is a very important part to maintain land health in this community. I'm fortunate enough and lucky to have been born and brought up in this landscape, where before I joined school, I was able to go and take care of livestock. And as I go out taking care of livestock, I learned very valuable lessons about the landscape. Because looking at the grevies and other herbivores and how vigilant they are in the landscape told me when the predators were there. And that means I needed to tighten my hiding skills. I needed to tighten my hiding skills to protect the cows, the goats that I was herding. It's also an area where I learned where to get water. There's no running taps. So I followed the tracks of grevies and other herbivores to be able to track where there's water, and that's where I quenched my thirst together with the livestock. I also followed the tracks of the grevies to trace where there's pasture, and that enabled me to save livestock by making sure that I'm able to secure their grazing. The same corridors that are used by livestock to look for pasture, to look for water, are very critical for grevies as well as other wildlife. Their movement from one area enables them to reach to areas where they can get water as well as get pasture. Allow me to take you through a journey, and a journey of one of our colored Grevy. We call her Namunyak. And we call her Namunyak because she was resilient enough. I remember the last time I was here, I was appealing for support of feeding the zebra. Namunyak was lucky enough, she's one of the lucky females, to have survived that drought. When we call her Namunyak in Westgate Community Conservancy. From this map, in the middle of the map, where we see Naibelibeli grazing area, is where we colored Namunyak. After coloring Namunyak spent that 80 days around Naibelibeli area because of the grazing. We did an animation of Namunyak to see where did she go after the 38 days. And this is what happened. Namunyak moved from Westgate to Samburu National Reserve. Then went back to Naibelibeli, one of the critical areas for grazing. There is a place called Loijuk, where she knew very well that I could get water in Loijuk. Then she moves, staying in West Meibai Community Conservancy, where it's a hotspot breeding areas for grevies. She knew when to cross roads such as the A2 road, and she was very keen enough to know the timing to avoid being knocked by vehicles. For Namunyak and our fall to be able to survive, to be able to access the resources, movement is very critical. Just like my community, the Samburu community, movement is very critical for them, just as Namunyak and our fall. And what are we doing to make sure that this movement is not curtailed with development that's coming up? I'm going to invite my colleague, David Kimiti, to take you through some of our strategies that we use to secure the corridors for Namunyak, as well as my community, the Samburu. Karibu, David.
Thank you, Peter. So our first strategy is leveraging citizen science and expert indigenous knowledge to help us collect data. This is one of our scouts that is approaching a Grevy zebra herd to collect data on them. And that just sort of shows you the type of landscapes that we're dealing with. And we work in a vast area because the Grevy zebra range is so large, and we're one of the few organizations dedicated to it. We have to cover an area of about 1 million hectares. To do this successfully, we need a network of community members that we rely on to help us collect data on the Grevy zebra and its habitat. And these community members patrol their areas, their homes, around where they live, and we work with them to really be able to collect information critically. Like Peter, they've grown up in this landscape. They deeply understand the ecology of their own land, and we have to leverage their knowledge, and especially the tracks and where animals are and where they'll be going to drink, to allow us to collect information. And just to give you an example of how important the information is, some of the data collected by some of our scouts in Meibai, near the breeding area where you saw Namunyak go to have our foal, there was a pipeline that was being constructed, that was being designed to be constructed through, and it was going to cut through the breeding area. But luckily, we had sighting data from our scouts in the area, and we were able to take that to the government and the planning agencies and show them that there was a critical breeding area. And because of that, they were able to reroute the pipeline to avoid that critical breeding area. So we work with multiple partners in the landscape, including Wasa Lions and Save the Elephants, to collect this information. Using this critical citizen science data, the knowledge from the scouts, the ambassadors, and the warriors that we work with, together with cutting-edge GPS collar information to provide information to decision makers. So the Kenya National Highway Authority, the Kenya Rural Roads Authority, and other development agencies in the area that are creating large-scale linear infrastructure in the area. We provide a multi-species image of wildlife crossing points. We provide hotspots where animals are being hit. And because of our information and the information of the different partners, we're able to make sure that we are putting in mitigation measures for those animals to allow them to cross. And so working with different partners in the landscape, we're able to provide this good picture. Also, because we work with the communities and we are fully embedded, we are able to get information. We have a very vast intelligence network where community members are able to tell us when they see things happening in the field. These two boys were out herding some months back, and they ran into a foal that had fallen into a gully, in one of the degraded areas in the place, and the foal couldn't get out by itself. And they reached out again to one of our scouts, one of our community scouts, who helped us reach out to the Kenya Wildlife Service and organize an expedition to go rescue the foal. And we were able to rescue the foal and try and reunite it with its herd. And we were happy that the foal was able to reconnect with its mother. So not only were we able to save this foal, but it really underscores our focus on restoration in the area. By restoring these landscapes that have been degraded, we're able to ensure that there's continuous and safe movement of people and wildlife through this region. We have some programs that we're doing that with. And while for some people it might seem like it's a pipe dream to restore, if you've been to these rangelands, you might know what I mean, to restore these areas, we have seen that through working with the communities, they have the power in their own hands to actually return these landscapes from degraded areas that are characterized by erosion and surface runoff into healthy, productive lands that are able to provide vegetation for both their livestock and the communities, as well as diverse wildlife. And this is our second strategy, the Rangeland Monitoring Program. And I'm going to hand back over to Peter to finalize and just tell you a little bit about what we are doing with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, David, and thanks for highlighting some of the strategies that we use to ensure that, Namunyak and my community, Samburu, are having their good time in Samburu. As David has highlighted, that land health is a very key component of what we do as Grevy Zebra Trust. We work with the local communities. They know their land very well. They are the custodians that will make sure that whatever that we need to make this land healthy is done well. And one of the methods is regenerative grazing. And regenerative grazing is where they control their livestock movement to make sure that livestock go grazing in the right place at the right time to avoid overgrazing. This is a picture of some of the village-based committee members working with their community, looking at the map in terms of livestock movement, and ensuring that they have consensus with the community on where the livestock will be grazing. It's not just a grazing plan within a paper. They go out to the field. And as they go out to the field, they mark these grazing blocks with natural features, such as hills, river, banks, mountains, valleys, and to ensure that they know within the community where these grazing blocks are and where they're going to get the water. We've spent many years working with communities to ensure that we build this momentum, to ensure that we make sure that the land becomes healthy. This momentum really requires us to make sure that we work with the communities. We borrow the indigenous knowledge in ensuring that land comes back to health. And that's just one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is where our grassland champions, women, are leading a movement of restoration by constructing half-moon structures called semicircular bands, and they reseed those areas. These half-moon structures control runoff when it rains. It captures the moisture, and that enables the grass to grow. We've seen so far 12,000 bands being constructed by these women, leading to islands of healthy areas that initially it was bare ground. But with these bands and with the receding, these are the kind of pictures we're seeing. These are the kind of movement that we're seeing, community leading from the front. And as they do that, wildlife benefit. Grevies are one of the beneficiaries. Because in one of these areas where we had regenerative plant grazing, we had 600 grevies spending more than 4 months grazing in this area, an area that they have never spent such length of time. And it's not just because of the grass being in abundance. It's also about creating space for grevies to be able to graze freely without disturbance. So we are at this point where we've been able to survive the long drought of 3 years. It's that moment when we want to kick the numbers. We are at 3,000 grevies. And for us to be able to achieve this, it's time to double our investment, to make sure that we scale our rangeland work, to make sure that we scale our network of citizen science that gives us all the intelligence. It's time to double our investment, to make sure that we increase the number of grevies from 3,000 to more grevies in this landscape. And in order for us to do that, we need support. We need support to be able to make our warriors reach out to some very harsh environment. We need support to build this new program that connects between Samburu, Isiolo, and Laikipia, because grevies have shifted from the north to the south, and we want to know more about this shift. We also need support to make sure that we have a full-time dedicated staff working in this area to be able to collect the data and engage the community. And having said that, I really want to say thank you. Thank you to WCN. Thank you to our supporters for all the amazing support, because we couldn't have walked this journey without all of you. Thank you.